Greetings. In this video I'll be painting an Assault Intercessor of the Novamarines. As half of the model is meant to be a light colour, I tried priming it with black and building up to a white. This took a long time, many coats, and I don't think it was necessary considering the base coat I applied afterwards. I assembled him with a heavy bolt pistol and a power fist from my bits box, originally from a Firstborn kit. The armorial is from the Deathwatch veteran set. The Novamarines have a blue and white quartered scheme, so I started by applying Ionrach's skin to the bottom left and top right quarters. This took quite some time, and I switched to a smaller brush for some smaller parts. I have a friend who did a Novamarine. He chose to use a white instead of a bone, and while I appreciate his interpretation, I believe the intended colour is a pale bone, especially when you consider the example given in the 8th edition codex, as it's right next to the Praetors of Orpheus. To prevent the bone colour from being too chalky, I thinned it with some water in my dry palette. It was a bit too much, but it only affected the drying times. I then started applying Macragge blue. I stuck with a smaller brush to reduce the likelihood of mistakes. I switched my general purpose brush though, to do the edges between the colours. I have no real method of painting the edge other than just eyeballing it. Masking such a small area isn't easy, and lining up the mask, probably harder than doing the line by hand. It's super satisfying when it comes out nicely. The Novamarines have heaps of lore, being a second founding chapter and featured in the Imperial Armour series. Simply though, they're an Ultramarine successor chapter. They've had many interpretations over the years, and I've gone with a bit of a mix. I'm focusing mainly on the Imperial Armour references, as they're the most fleshed out. Black markings, except for the white armorial, colored gun casing, and the alternate iron lenses. I went back with Ionrach's skin to correct some mistakes on the helmet and power pack, then back to Macragge blue to finish up. Next I highlighted it with Deepkin flesh. I apply it with a small dry brush, made sure to keep away from the blue. I'm really happy with the resulting colour. I then repeated the process with Calgar blue, going over the blue quarters. Calgar blue can be messy, so I cleaned up the larger panels with some thinned Macragge blue. I then used Abaddon black for the undersuit and the power pack cables. Rhinox hide was used for the holster in the belt. The metallic spots were painted with Leadbelcher. Gun casings of the Novamarines in the Imperial armor books show a faint blue-grey, so I replicated that with some Thunderhawk blue. The references for the bolter show the handguard in a grey, so I used Mechanicus standard grey and then highlighted it with Dawnstone. The eye lenses in the Imperial armor books show a sea green as opposed to the usual red, so I used Kabalite green highlighted with Sybarite green. I applied a bit too much, so I went back with Kabalite green afterwards. I made a few mistakes, so I went back with Ionrach skin and Deepkin flesh to clean up the helmet. I also did some edge highlighting while I had the Deepkin flesh out. I then moved on to the Power Fist, painted the assault marking black, and used Steel Legion Drab for the skull. I also used Steel Legion Drab to highlight the leather, following that with the light dry brush. I finished the leather with a final highlight of Baneblade brown, dotting the edges and drawing scratches and cuts. The skull was then painted with Morghast bone, finishing the base coat there. Ushabti bone was used to highlight it. The armorial was painted with Ulthuan grey. Some of the lights on the wrist were painted with Mephiston red. The remaining light was painted with Moot green. It's too small for me to bother with multiple paints there. Wild Rider red was then used to highlight the Mephiston red. Then on to the decals. I used the same method as my previous two videos. Thinned hard coat to prepare the surfaces, microset when applying, and microsol after it dries to improve the fit of the transfers. I put an assault marking on the pauldron, and a number 10 in High Gothic on the knee pad. This should denote him as part of the 10th squad of an unspecified company, as Novamarines don't display their company markings. After the transfers were applied, I used an ultramatte varnish to remove the gloss and bring it in line with the rest of the piece. Next, I brought out the enamel paint. The model appeared too clean and bright, it needed definition. Enamel washes deal with both of those problems in one go. I used AK's wash for engines and turbines, but it's the colour I'm after, the name doesn't matter. I applied this all over the model, adding thinner to the already thin enamel wash, to help it run into the recesses more. I did 2 passes, waiting for the first to dry and applying more where I felt it was needed. I'm still new to enamel, so I'm being a bit more cautious than is probably necessary. After half hour or so, it was dry enough for me to start removing it with a cotton bud. I removed it from most of the smooth surfaces, making sure to leave some grit, but removing most of the staining. Only a tiny bit of thinner and it comes off nicely. The enamel really ties the model together nicely. At this point I went back to metallics. I had forgotten one of the power pack exhausts, so that was painted with Leadbelcher. I then gave the metal a dark grey wash. I applied Rhinox hide to the base in preparation for the basing material, in case any of it shows through. I also applied Rhinox hide over the armour to create scratches and a chipped effect. I think this looks incredible on such bright armour. I'm really happy with it. I then applied PVA glue and the basing material from Geek Gaming Scenics. Only after all that I'd noticed I hadn't painted the rivets yet, so I grabbed some silver and dotted those. Overall, I'm very happy with this model. I built this one before all the others on the channel, shelving it after struggling with the priming, and concerned about painting a bright armour colour like this. I think the enamel really pulled through for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this one, and if you have any other video suggestions for chapters I should take a look at, or other topics, let me know.